Thank you for joining us. Have you ever wondered why you enjoy the things you enjoy? Why you think the things you think and do the things you do? Why you are the person that you are? These are all questions that you ask frequently when studying psychology. As a psychology graduate, I've had a deep fascination with what makes us the people that we are today, and a large part of that is our sexualities and our sexual preferences.
Hello guys, and welcome back. So today's video is going to be another one that I know very little about. Obviously doing the research for this video was incredibly interesting for me, as it's a subject that whilst I've obviously heard a lot about it, I didn't really understand it at all myself. Obviously it's a subject that I personally don't have any interest in, but those are often the subjects which are the most interesting for me to then research and look up, so I hope you guys enjoy. We have all at some point or another no doubt been exposed to animated porn of some kind, whether it be a disturbing cartoon parody of a beloved animated character or actual hentai porn. Illustrative or animated pornography has become increasingly popular, and that shouldn't be a surprise. With advances in animation technology, or our insistent necessity to include sex appeal in pretty much any form of media regardless of the target audience, the number of individuals who are consequently sexually attracted to said animations is on the rise. Scidiophilia, also known as tunophilia or fictophilia, is the official term used to describe sexual attraction to virtual beings, and stems from the Greek term skidia meaning design, and philia meaning love. This attraction has become increasingly popular over the recent decades, with Pornhub searches for cartoons and hentai reaching new heights. Now we'll go into that properly later on in the video, but it's important to note that many psychologists believe that this attraction is far more deeply ingrained into our DNA than many of us might assume. Fictosexuality, fictoromance and fictophilia, a qualitative study of love and desire for fictional characters, is an incredibly interesting study. In fact, this study points out that unlike many of the kinks or fetishes that we've covered in previous videos, fictophilia is not in fact recognised as a paraphilia, or as a disorder, but instead simply as a preference or attraction. This study in particular offers some really fascinating insights into the subject, and I highly recommend reading it in its entirety. But one particular point of interest that it brings forward is the similarities between the parasocial relationships that develop between a fan base and a celebrity, and that which may develop between a fan and a fictional character. Giles, 2002, distinguishes between three different parasocial interactions. First order, which is a parasocial relationship one may have to another human. Second order, which is a parasocial relationship one may have to a fictional character acted by a human. And third order, which is the parasocial relationship between a person and a strictly fictional character. When you look at how intoxicated some people become with their celebrity crush, and the lengths that they will go to appease or worship these individuals that they almost have no chance of ever actually meeting or garnering attention from, it's easy to understand how these kinds of obsessive, one-sided and unrequited commitments could develop. The average person probably doesn't have that much more of a chance with Brad Pitt or Zendaya than they do with their favourite fictional character, and obsessing over either would be seen as a parasocial relationship of some kind. Yet why do individuals who outwardly express an attraction or love towards a fictional character often receive far more backlash than those who obsess over real-life people? The study mentioned above made some really interesting conclusions, with its analysis of 71 online discussions related to fictophilia being summarised into 5 key themes. First, the Fictophilic Paradox, whereby fictophiles do not confuse reality with fiction, but overtly address the parasocial nature of their relationship, with these genuine emotions towards non-existent characters often causing very real discomfort. Fictophilic stigma describes the degree of condemnation many fictophiles experience as a result of their attraction being seen as bizarre by many of their peers, which often in turn leads to these individuals finding solitude amongst others with similar thoughts and feelings. This can then lead to the development of subcultures within that particular franchise. Photophilic behaviors are described as the individual's actions to pursue fan-like activities contributing to their interaction with a fictional character in question. Photophilic asexuality is a term used to describe those who become so fixated on their emotional attraction to the fictional character that they lose attraction to their peers, becoming dependent on whatever fictional entity that they are interested in order to feel aroused. And finally, Fictophilic Supernormal Stimuli, whereby the fictional character in question and the relationship that the individual has developed with them becomes more substantial than their real relationships with real people. As with any sexual fetish or fantasy, it's all about moderation and context. Merely having an attraction towards fictional characters due to manifesting qualities that you are attracted to or find positive doesn't have to be a bad thing, but of course there is always the potential for that attraction to become detrimental, especially if you isolate yourself from your peers in favour of the company of this imaginary person. It's not uncommon for these groups of individuals to form tightly knitted sub-communities within their franchise fan base, surrounding themselves with others who also feel an emotional attachment to the same character or characters. In fact, this is so prevalent within certain communities that merchandise such as waifu body pillows based off characters from popular anime series are now widely known of and discussed even outside of their particular fan bases. I don't watch anime particularly, I don't really know much about the anime community, but obviously even I've heard of them, so that goes to show something surely. So, what causes somebody to become attracted to fictophilia? This is of course a question of more answers than we have time to address. People are diverse and unique, and each individual has their own particular reason for such an attraction, but here's a few of the leading theories on the matter. In many cases, the individual wants to live vicariously through the character in some way. Whether they see the character as having traits that they as a person aspire to have, or if a character is a representation of a lifestyle that they fantasize about. It can also be the case that the environment in which the character resides offers a safe space for the individual, sometimes due to that particular franchise being used as a coping mechanism or comfort zone. For example, if a person grew up finding comfort or solitude in watching a particular anime or program when they were growing up, and used that program as an escape from reality, then they may find themselves seeking reassurance from the fictional characters within that world, over time developing a codependency to them. Anything that can be seen as therapeutic has the potential to be positive, but of course, it can also be seen as massively detrimental if that source of relief becomes a dependency or an obsession, and it reaches the point where the individual prefers the company of a fictional character to that of real life people. So how common is the attraction? Well, one such indicator of its popularity comes in the form of 2018 annual statistics from Pornhub, which at the time highlighted hentai, the sexualization of animation, as the second highest searched word that year. To put that in perspective, have a look how many categories there are on Pornhub. Think about how many people use that website every single day, okay? For it to be the second highest searched word, that's a lot of people. Now, many people in the comments are bound to throw a tantrum and claim the fact that animated pornography has become so popular is the result of us living in a doomed generation. But it may surprise you to hear that illustrated and animated porn is by no means a modern phenomenon. And while the term hentai is Japanese, the West is no stranger to producing sexually charged cartoons. In fact, some examples include Marge Simpson's turn as a Playboy playmate, pulpy porn comics popular during the Great Depression, and of course the pin-up girls of the 1950s. Going even further back, the Mughal Empire commissioned medieval renditions of all of our favourite sex positions to be produced in the illustrated edition of Kama Sutra. Attraction to the illustrated human form appears to extend deeper into our psyches than some newfangled millennial kink. But to understand why it is that so many people have this attraction, we must first look at the relationship between songbirds and supernormal stimuli. Nicholas Tinbergen's discoveries led to him being awarded the 1973 Nobel Prize in Psychology and Medicine, among which was a theory addressing the idea that evolution may not have imbued animals with an innate kill switch towards instinctual responses. To test his theory, he created large blue polka-dotted fake eggs, which were then placed in the nests of songbirds. Instinctively programmed to sit on speckled pale blue eggs, the birds quickly abandoned their actual broods to nurture the imposters, despite the artificial eggs being far too large to properly nest on. This response was called Supernormal Stimulus, a phenomenon that occurs when an artificial object stimulates an animal's instinctual response more intensely than a natural object that the instincts evolved to seek out. In fact, this is just one of literally hundreds of examples that we have both created and observed in the wild, solidifying the theory of supernormative stimuli as something that all species have the potential to fall prey to. In The Evolution of Desire, evolutionary psychologist David Buss argues that evolution imprinted men and women with particular instincts for finding mates. Beauty may be in the eye of the beholder, but those eyes and the minds behind those eyes have been shaped by millions of years of human evolution, Buss writes. We are all primed to instinctively search for certain visual cues in a mate, and while those cues may differ drastically from culture to culture, from generation to generation, there are some aspects which remain consistent throughout. Some of the most consistent visual cues include full lips, clear skin, smooth skin, clear eyes, healthy hair, and good muscle tone, with behavioural cues including a youthful gait or walk, a highly animated face, and high energy levels. Many animated mediums of pornography, such as hentai, take these cues and dial them up to 11, overemphasising the characteristics which have been evolutionarily ingrained in people to seek out or find attractive. An example of this used by Buss was the image of the infamous Betty Boop, a dramatically over-exaggerated character with warped proportions and unrealistic characteristics, which somehow remained widely thought of as a sex symbol for almost 100 years. This theory goes a long way to explain why so many people are attracted to fictional animated characters, perhaps even more so than they are to real-life people, and helps to explain the popularity of mediums such as hentai. As mentioned previously, it's important to remember that there's a fine line between an attraction being harmless, or even positive, and it becoming detrimental. Having an attraction to an animated or fictional character isn't inherently dangerous. In fact, if the studies above are the statistics from Pornhub or anything to go by, you'll assume that they're incredibly popular. But it's important for those lines between fiction and reality remain firmly in place. Now, I hope you guys have enjoyed this video. It's been an interesting one to record because, unlike a lot of the other topics, I know nothing about this. With a lot of the previous subjects such as sadism, masochism, even cuckoldry, they're things which I as a porn performer and as a psychologist have encountered in my day-to-day life. Whereas I've never personally found an attraction to animated or drawn or illustrated pornography. I just haven't. It's not something that I'm personally into, but I know a lot of people that are. And so it's been something that's interesting for me, obviously, talking to them over the last couple of weeks and being like, look, I don't get it. I'd love to understand more, and hearing their opinions on the matter. Obviously, it's an interesting subject, and it's one that I think a lot of people are going to be able to relate to, whether they want to admit it or not. But I hope you guys have enjoyed the video, and as ever, if you do enjoy, please give the video a like and a share. And if you have any ideas for future videos, please comment them down below, or message me on Instagram at mindbodyandsoul with underscores between each word. Hope you guys have a wonderful day. Much love.